Hey guys, it's Gabe, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make frames for your original artwork. Now you could go to a custom frame shop and get your artwork framed there, but it's going to cost you over $1,000 for each painting that you have that's over a standard size. And since I have like 30 frames that I need to make, it's going to be ridiculously expensive. So what I decided to do is turn my garage into a workshop and learn how to make frames myself. And I watched dozens of YouTube tutorial videos, and I took the best sections of each one and I kind of made my own way of doing it, and I'm happy to share that with you guys right now. This painting here is called Overlook. The dimensions are 22 by 22, and I'm going to add a 2.5-inch mat on all sides. So the frame we are making needs to hold 27 inches from the rabbet. The rabbet is this little groove here on the inside of the frame that the mat, glass, and backing material all sit in. I set my miter saw here at 45 degrees. I've checked it, I double checked it. Make sure you check it with one of these bad boys. So for my first cut, I'm just gonna move it all the way to the edge here so I can get as much of the wood as possible. And then slow and steady wins the race. Like that, we have a perfect 45-degree angle. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna release this locking mechanism here, flip the wood over, and then this cut's going to be going on this side here. You have to alternate your cuts. So I'm just going to put a mark here, draw a line at 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to draw a line at 1/2 inch. And this is where my rabbet's going to be. So I'm going to draw a line going all the way across. I like to take this here, put it at the edge of my wood, line it up to where the 27 mark is, and now actually draw a line there. And that's going to give me exactly where my cut should be. So we'll go ahead and move that on over. There we have it. Our first piece of wood for our frame. And I can use this as a template now. So I'll just flip it over, wedges perfectly. Okay. You want to make sure that all your sides, especially if you're making a frame that's equal on all 4 sides, are exactly the same. So your 2 top ones and your 2 side ones have to be the same length. In this case, they're all going to be the same length because it's a square. And I will go ahead and move this into place. There we go. And then you can test out if they're exactly the same. Just put them next to each other, and then you can feel it on both sides. And now one side shouldn't be sticking out from the other. It should be exactly flush on both sides. And the miter saw makes it really easy to adjust it in case if it's not. And I suggest that you keep these extra pieces of wood for tests, such as, you know, the rabbet test, or maybe if you wanted to do a design on the frame. Test it on this first. I always do a test piece before I do it on the actual frame. Okay, so once you have all your pieces cut, go ahead and assemble them together. Make sure that they fit nicely and no parts are crooked, and that everything lines up to a perfect 90-degree angle. And I threw my painting in there just to make sure that it's going to be even on all sides, and it looks pretty good to me. So we'll go ahead and get started on the next step. Okay, so now I'm ready to start making some designs on this frame here. And I think I'm going to do the same design as this one here, where I pretty much just took my table saw, put it at a 13.5 degrees. Take this little movable wall, so I'll put this here, and I'm just going to move it all the way to the edge here, and that'll give me the same angle. So I'll just lock this down in place, and it's good to go. Now be careful when you're doing this step because the saw blade is really high and you don't want to, you know, cut yourself or anything. Go ahead and do the first cut on the first piece of wood here. It's important that you follow through when the cut is all the way done. So again, we're going to do fat side down. Run the wood through the saw blade nice and slow using your safety tools, and follow through with your cut. Apply pressure along the wall so the wood doesn't separate and cause curves. You want a nice straight line going across the length of your mold. Once you're happy with the angle and thickness, you can repeat this step with the 3 other panels. I advise you do this with a scrap piece of wood first before you try it on the actual frame itself. Okay, so I have my saw set at 1/2 inch and I have this set at 1/2 inch, so it should create a perfect little rabbet for me. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Slide the wood through nice and slow, applying pressure down on the saw blade. You'll see that it creates a nice straight line going down the length of the mold. Turn the mold over on its side and apply pressure along the wall to finish off making the rabbet. Now you have this really nice 90-degree cutout that your artwork can sit in. So when it comes time to reinforce the wood, there's a lot of methods to do it. You know, a lot of people use staples or nails or wooden splines, but what I like to use are these biscuits here. And I have here a Biscuit Maker. And how it works, this has a little saw and it cuts a little hole right here and you can put the biscuits in. So when you glue it down and then you put another piece, it really locks it tight and lock it together. And I'll show you how I do that. So the first thing you want to do is mark the halfway point on your piece of wood. So go ahead and take a ruler. And this is 3.5 inches, so my line would be at 1 3/4. All I have to do is put this machine here, and there's a line right here that I can align with that mark I just made. And there we have it. Let's apply the same technique to all sides of the frame, making sure the panels are all facing up. Now that we have the rabbets all set up, it's time to glue the 4 pieces together. I like to work with a thin piece of wood like a popsicle stick because it lets me really get into the nooks and crannies when applying the glue. Let's go ahead and glue one side really well and glue both sides of the biscuit too. Now we can join these pieces together in peace and harmony. First side is done. Let's go ahead and repeat this step on all 4 sides. Once you have all the pieces aligned, it's time to use this rope clamp. You can buy these at Home Depot for about 30 bucks. In my experience, it's the best way to align these 4 sides because it applies equal pressure on all sides evenly. Bust out your framing square and check that all the corners are at perfect 90-degree angles. Once you have all 4 sides lined up, check to see if there's any gaps between the molds. If there is, you can take a little bit of glue and apply it to the gaps. Take some sawdust and rub it in the gaps. This will fill in the gaps and appear nice and smooth when you sand it at the end. If your corner is already nice and tight, you don't need to worry about doing this step. It's important not to use too much glue because when it comes time to stain it, the stain won't soak into the areas properly where there were globs of glue. And here is the frame after gluing. Oh yeah. So these are the stains that I'll be using. I have the Colonial Maple and the English Chestnut, and I tested them out beforehand. And the maple was a little bit too light and the chestnut was a little bit too dark. So what I did was I mixed them together and it gave me this really nice in-between color. And that's the color that I'm going to apply to this frame. Go ahead and take a rag and dip it in the stain and apply evenly going along with the grain of the wood. Now I could stop there and have a perfectly acceptable frame, but I want to do something different that you don't see every day, especially in a gallery setting. I'm going to paint half of this frame with street art spray painting techniques, while at the same time have some wood grain showing through. Now what I did here is I masked off 1 inch from the inside, so I used this ruler here, and I wrapped the masking tape to cover the inside of the rabbet too. Once you have the frame all masked up, take gesso and apply it to the outside of the frame. 1 coat will suffice. Get it nice and smooth without any brush strokes showing. For the paint, this is where you can get creative with spray paint or any other kind of paint you want to use. If you want more details on how I painted this, I will be uploading a video in a few weeks breaking down the paint portion of this frame. Remove the masking tape carefully, pulling away from the painted section, and voila! We have this interplanetary texture that gives your artwork a unique and vibrant complementary texture to go with your artwork. Finally, I'm just going to add a dividing line with an oil paint marker. You want to make this line nice and straight. I'm going to use polyurethane to seal in the paint and the stain. I'm applying this with a foam brush. I have a Logan mat cutter I'm going to be using to make a 2.5 inch mat. For the back, I'm going to be using hardboard that I got at Home Depot. They will cut this down to size for you for free. I also recommend that you get this 1/8 of an inch smaller than your rabbet. You can get the glass cut for free at Lowe's. Just make sure that you get it cut 1/8 of an inch smaller than your rabbet so it fits nice and snug. And now that you have everything good to go, it's time to get it nailed in. I'm just going to use an inch nail, and I'm going to nail it 2 on each side. Now that we have everything nailed in and assembled, here's the finished product. It's ready to hang up, whether it's in your home, museum, or gallery. If you have any questions whatsoever about this process, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to get more videos just like this, and until next time, stay creative.